Let us now use the name workflow named Data1 to show how to compute summary statistics and to do visualization for the customer's calls database. We start by first computing summary statistics. To this extent, NIME offers the node Statistics. The node Statistics can be found in the section Statistics, and it is the node that I have evidenced now. To set up the parameters of the Statistics node, we simply go over the Statistics node, we click the right button of the mouse and we select the Configure option. Then the following window opens. So we can here select which are the attributes to be used to compute the summary statistics. In this case, all the attributes will be used. However, we can select one or more of the attributes, for example, by simply clicking with the left button of the mouse, or if we want to select more values, we click on the first one, then we hold down the Shift key and we click again with the left button of the mouse, and so more attributes will be selected. For example, if we want to exclude this attribute from the computation of the summary statistics, after having selected them, we simply click the Remove button and they are removed. So they are included into the list of those attributes that will not be used to compute the summary statistics. We can also select singular attributes by using the Control key and again clicking with the left button of the mouse. In this case, once we have selected the attribute that we want to manipulate, we can, for example, add them back to the list of included attributes by using the Add button. We also have to show additional features of the statistics node. In particular, we can make the decision about to use the computation of the median for the attributes. In some cases, when we have a huge data set, it is better not to compute the median value because it takes a long amount of time. We can also make the decision about which is the maximum number of most frequent and infrequent values. We will tell something more about this later, and the same applies to the Enable Highlight option. A different way to select which attributes have to be used to compute the summary statistics is offered by the Type Selection radio button. Indeed, if we select this radio button, then we can add and remove the attributes to the list of included attributes, so those attributes that will be used to compute the summary statistics, by simply checking the group of the attributes to be included. For example, if we select strings, just those attributes of type string will be added to the list of attributes on which the summary statistics will be computed. Now we move back to the manual selection, and in this case we add all the attributes to the list of those that will be used to compute summary statistics. We can also make the decision about which is the histogram format for the picture of the histogram format, which is the width and the height, and also whether to show or not the minimum and maximum values. Once we have set up all these choices, then we confirm and close the windows with the OK button. Then we can execute the statistic node, and this happens by simply again right-clicking the button of the mouse and selecting either execute or execute and open views. In this case, we will select execute and open views. Then, at the end of the execution, the following window opens, and we can start to navigate the results of the computation performed by the statistics node. First of all, we have three different panels. The first one is named numeric, the second one is named nominal, and the third one is named top and bottom. We start with the numeric one. Here we have in the first column, we have the list of the attributes of the customer scores database. Then we have the minimum and maximum value. We have the mean and the median. We have the standard deviation and higher order moments as skewness and kurtosis, and we also have the number of missing values associated with the specific attribute. On the extreme right, we also have the histogram for the corresponding attribute. If we move to the nominal panel, then we must clarify that this panel is related or has value only for those attributes which are not continuous, so for nominal attributes. In this case, we will focus our attention to the state, to the area code, to the phone, and to the churn attributes. And again, on the right, we have reported their histogram. Finally, we have the top-bottom panel, where for each attribute, which is associated to the different columns that are reported here, we have, first of all, the number of missing values, and we also have the top 10 most frequent values and the top 10 less frequent values. All this information, all this metadata can be extremely useful to get in contact for the first time with the dataset to be analyzed. Then we close this window, and we also want to point out that all the information, all the results that I have presented now can be accessed again by right-clicking the bottom of the mouse and selecting one of these three options: statistics table, where the information related to the continuous attribute are reported. We can select the nominal histogram table for the nominal attributes, and finally we can also select the occurrences table. At this stage we can now present the box plot node. The box plot node is made available to us the computation of the box and whiskers diagrams. In particular, the box plot node can be found in the data views group of nodes, and it is the one that I am evidencing now. The box plot node does not require any particular setup, and so once we have added it, we simply can start the execution, and we can access the output of its execution. In this case, we right-click the bottom of the mouse, we select View Box Plot, and then the following window opens, and here we have reported on the x-axis the list of all the attributes to which the box and whiskers representation applies. In particular, we can recognize the median, the lower interquartile, the upper interquartile, and the two whiskers, which are located at 1.5 distance with respect to the median. Now, to better inspect the box and whiskers diagram, we can, for example, select under the appearance table the normalize option. This option allows us to rescale the box and whiskers diagram of all the attributes that are shown together. This will help us to improve the readability of the results when we are focused to compare different attributes. It is also important to highlight that here all these observations for the attribute cost served scores are observations that are defined to be anomalous, and so they are typically categorized as outlier observations. but they are represented with different symbols. This observation with a square, while these other observations are represented with a plus. This is because this observation is categorized to be a mild outlier, while these are categorized to be extreme outliers. We can now go back to the column selection tab, because this tab allows us to remove or to add different attributes on which the box and whiskers diagram must be computed. For example, we can remove all these attributes, and so we see that we have no longer any representation of box and whiskers. We can again select some of the attributes and add them back to compute again the box and whiskers representation. Then we can close this window, and we can access additional information by right-clicking the bottom of the mouse and selecting the Robust Statistics option. In this case, we access to this table where for each column which is associated to an attribute, we will have a different row, the values of the minimum, smallest, lowest quartile, median, upper quartile, largest and maximum. So again, we close this window, and now we can move to the scatter plot node. The scatter plot node allows to compute scatter diagram, and again is included into the data views group of nodes. The scatter plot is the node that I have selected now. The scatter plot node must be set up just for very basic values, for example the number of rows to display, and the option to decide whether to ignore or not columns with more nominal values than a given value that you can specify. So once you have selected all these options, then you right-click the bottom of the mouse and you execute this node by selecting the option Execute and Open Views. At this stage, you open the output window, and this output window can be manipulated under the column selection panel. In this case, you have the X column and the Y column, and you can select different attributes to be analyzed. For example, we can select the means and plot it against EV means. In this case, we can see that this is we have a cloud of points, where on the x-axis we have the values of the day means, and on the y-axis we have the values of the EV means attribute. We can minimize this window, and we go out of the focus. We have the graphics representation, and to increase the capability to read this graphic, we can simply use the button Fit to Size to get back to this representation, which is more readable and more interpretable than the previous one. Now we can close this window, and we can go to describe the last node of this workflow, so the scatter matrix node. This node also belongs to the group of data views nodes, and it is the one that I have selected now. Also, this node has a very few parameters for the setting, the same as those for the scatter plot node, so we simply use the default values, and we execute this node. Again, we use the option Execute and Open Views, and we access the following window. Here we have the graphical representation of the scatter matrix related just to the three attributes that we have added to the Include panel, so account length, email message, and day means. Again, we can add or remove attributes. For example, we can add the attribute into means by selecting it and pushing the add button to increase the dimension of the scatter matrix. We have to recall that scatter matrix is symmetric, so just the upper right part or the lower left part can be analyzed, can be taken into account. It is also relevant to recall that for the scatter plot, for the box plot, and for the scatter matrix, it is possible to use the option of highlight the observation. So we can simply click the left button of the mouse, we can drag the mouse, and we can release the left button of the mouse, selecting a given set of observations. Then, with this observation, we can highlight these observations, which are now shown in yellow, and we can clear this selection again with the option clear highlight. We can also toggle between highlight and unhighlight selected in this way. Okay, so now we can close these. We can also, for example, increase the dot size of the representation and other graphical representation setting. So now we can close this window, and we finish the discussion and presentation for this workflow.